Ladies and gentlemen, we are live on air, multiple platforms. This is a first for Magnetic Reversal News, even Oppenheimer Ranch Project. We are streaming live on X. We are streaming live on Facebook, and we are streaming live on YouTube. If you can hear me, hit the thumbs up and tell me in the comments section that the audio is good. Thank you, Heidi Mixitz, for the first super chat of the night. Welcome to the show, Shirley Schenkel. Cyberdog is in the house. Michael Yasuri. Pete Yeager is here. Who else do we have? We've got Tammy Ratfield in the house. Cyberdog is here, the shiny one. Eric Court is hanging out with Gunslinger. Susie Cat is also in the chat. We also have Randy Willis, Ionic Mike, Trish LaRocca, Troy McDrain, Steffers J is in the house. So is Sam and Victor Debs. So is Liz. Welcome to the show, everyone. James 007 also showing up tonight. Lyle Height. Craig, make a sandwich. Gaman Neod. Welcome to the show, Varisme. Melody Schramm, CQ, C. Quintana, Leonidas here, Christine Pretty, Captain Trips, Gordon is in the house, Orange Guy 936, welcome to the show, Dan R, and many others. Q9 is here, Commander K, Jonathan Gibson. It's boom time and Happy New Year to everyone in the house. It is boom time. All right, we're going to be talking about several topics tonight, including multiple dead and powerful Japan earthquake. How do you like them apples? Well, I imagine the audio is good. Let me turn it up. Yep. All right, live stream looks good. Everyone, Mountain High Time is in the house. It's boom time. YOLO, mofos. Question Everything just got here. And many others. VJ Tsunamics. Welcome to the show. All right, let's get back on to topic, shall we? I like it when I'm bigger than the news program, but you really can't. It's not really good for you, so let's keep it this way. Multiple dead and powerful earthquake. The death toll has risen much higher than the U.S. media is leading on to. The U.S. media still has the death toll just at 6. But as far as the earthquake is concerned, all tsunami advisories in Japan have been removed, according to the country's meteorological agency on Tuesday morning. The advisories were issued following the 7.5 magnitude earthquake, which struck central Japan. There were tsunami waves in multiple places up to 1.2 meters. That's 4 feet if you're in the U.S. It hit a number of areas along Japan's western coast, the coast with the most to boast, perhaps. Now, the U.S. is claiming the death toll is sitting at 6, but I can assure you that the Japanese Times says otherwise. As Japan assesses the damage following a massive quake and tsunami warning, take a look at that. Holy macaroni. That's some of the worst damage I've seen from the entire activity here. Let's share this with you and blow it up a little bit. There's like a massive sinkhole there. 20, 30 foot deep, and homes just fell into it. I hope you're all picking up what we're putting down there. Mountain High Time says low. Cray cray. Horrible. Yes, indeed. Horrible indeed. The beginning is near. We shall not fear. Mojave Pocahontas in the house. Welcome to the show. So Japan lifted all the tsunami warnings. There were tsunami waves up to 4 feet that hit a number of areas along Japan's western coast. The tsunami warnings have been removed. Remember that under Japan's tsunami warning system, waves expected less than 1 meter fall under tsunami advisory, while those expected up to 3 meters fall under tsunami warning, and waves expected above 5 meters fall under major tsunami warning. So according to the Japan Times, authorities in Japan on Tuesday were rushing to assess the damage the day after a powerful earthquake left at least 13 dead and led to the collapse of multiple buildings, sparked a large-scale fire in popular tourist areas, and triggered a tsunami warning for the length of the nation's coast. The 7.6 magnitude earthquake, now this 7.6 nomenclature is coming from the Japan Shindo intensity scale, which is a little different than the US Mercator. So 7.6 magnitude earthquake, which is at the center, was rated the highest level 7 on Japan's Shindo intensity scale. It struck Ishikawa Prefecture, Noto Peninsula on Monday afternoon. And in fact, here is more damage, more pictures of the damage. Just making sure you're all seeing what I'm seeing. There is some fires and some soot and other related things there as well. Now, the number of aftershocks is classroom typical. Now, if you get a magnitude 7.5, like the one that struck, we should expect 100 quakes of 6 magnitude beneath it, and then 1,000 quakes of 5 magnitude and 10,000 quakes of 4 magnitude, and so on, according to the textbooks. It never works out that way, but there is a breakdown like that. But we do see a 7.5 magnitude, a number of 5 magnitude aftershocks, and then lesser quakes. Now, this could be going on for 24 to 46, maybe 72 hours. It could be up to 3 days. There are still aftershocks happening in the U.S. from the New Madrid quake back in 1811 and 12. So there is that. Now, we're going to be taking a few questions soon. Bobby Adkins is in the house. Welcome to the show, bro. Scrappy Cat is here as well. Have I missed anyone? PJ CC West. Mojave Strength in the house. Jaws here. Rastafari. Cute Ice Cream. Never saw that name. Bonsai here from the Bonsai Prepping Podcast. Love you, Diamond. Welcome to the show, Bonsai. From the Bonsai Prepper. Why isn't your name Bonsai Prepper instead of Cute Ice Cream? That's a little creepy. But we will keep spreading the truth, bro. What happened to Dutch? Did he not predict another earthquake? All right, let's go. So as far as the live updates for the Japan quake, that's about all we have to report on currently. The death toll is now at 13 or so, multiple collapsed buildings. If you haven't seen it, let me pull up my Twitter feed real quick here, and you can watch some spectacular footage. Guys, if you aren't following us over at Oppenheimer Ranch Project at Diamond the Dave on X, please go over there. We are now live streaming there, and it's actually working. That's fantastic. So our live stream is happening. We're watching ourselves live on X while we are live at Magnetic Reversal News on YouTube. Isn't that mind-bending? Mind-blowing. It hasn't really. Let me show you. Let me go there. Let me share the tab. Yeah. So we're over here at Oppenheimer Ranch Project at Diamond the Dave. I'm sorry I didn't share that. Please follow us over here at X, where we are actually live streaming here in the first tab. We are watching our own selves live as we're watching ourselves live. How do you like them apples? Why did we even come over here? Oh, we're coming over here to look at some amazing footage. Let me get some audio on this mofo, if I can, yo. And herein is the problem with the tweeter. It's not going to let me to give you audio because I can't click the... Twitter comes up muted. That's the problem. All right. Okay, I just able to unmute it. Let's share this with you. What are we looking at? Anybody? Oh, all right. Let's share screen. All right. Let's present Amelia Porcella. I'm going to share the screen because you guys are not following me. Let's go over to the tweet box here. Is that the one? It's so confusing, all this technology. My goodness. All right, so we're over here at our Twitter, at Diamond the Dave, where we are live streaming live while you watch me live stream you live. And we're going to come over here to look at some of this footage here. There we go. We've got the audio. Look at this cameraman down here at the bottom left, who's not leaving the building. He's staying for the shot. He probably knows the risks. He doesn't care. He's going to get a promotion. I mean, he could easily run out that sliding door. Let's go look at that guy. He deserves the hero award. He's assessing it. Should I stay? I'm about to go. No. Let me get the shot. Let me get that shot. It's all about the shot, man. Not the clock shot. The actual the footage of the... Anyway, you know what I'm saying. Obviously, you can see a lot of motion here. Here we see that 4-foot tsunami splashing on to the prefecture. This is smashing into the west coast of central Japan. I hope everyone's watching. Okay, good. Everyone's watching this. I want to bring your attention to the motion of some of these houses are just crumbling. Look at the move right there. All right, let's get back there. Watch the houses swaying to and fro like 6 feet. Holy macaroni. A couple of them are collapsing, but clearly these homes are built very well. This one collapsed there. This guy's pretty, obviously a little cheaper people in between some of the swaying houses. In fact, some of the homes did collapse, but there are more evidence of the tsunami smashing in and taking names. I really want to go see this guy, the cameraman. That guy is my hero. Look at him. Buckle up, Buttercup. I'm getting the shot. That's just fantastic, man. How many people are watching? We got 311 in the house. We appreciate each and every one of you. It's now up to 312. Happy New Year's, folks. Holy macaroni, what a year. And we have much more to come, much more fun coming in the near future. I want to thank you, welcome you all to the stream. If I didn't welcome you and you're here and you're new, I apologize. It kind of takes away from the show when I just mention everyone's name, including Sleepy G. Welcome to the stream, Mr. Sleeper. 13 on X. Don't know what that means, Ransom. All right, and here we can see some of the fires happening in that tourist area due to that major earthquake. Our thoughts, our hearts, and our prayers go out to those people affected in the region. Indeed. All right, let me go check the chat here. Which is worse? Quick, sharp jolts or smooth, long swaying? It depends on where you are. If you're in a low-lying area near a lake or a river where a sharp jolt could change the topography, you could be inundated by a flood. Smooth, long swaying typically has to do with liquefaction and the rolling of the surface. It's more gradual and less destructive than any jolts. Miss Quintana. No one, he was not filming his final moments. In fact, he probably was well aware that the building he was in, where the media outlet was like set for a 9 magnitude, and it was only a 7.5. Everyone in this region of Japan got a warning immediately on their cell phone from the government, and they knew a few seconds before the major P and S waves hit, and they were able to get outside. They had warning. We don't have anything like that set up in the U.S., unfortunately. But we should, in fact. What is this? Musk is profiting from the GW scam. Of course he is, but he doesn't believe in it. He's doing the same thing that any billionaire, politician, or anyone else with a brain on their heads. You use the system to beat the system. He was able to do what he did with Tesla because of the government subsidies, which paid him billions of dollars to do the things that he couldn't pay for. And because of that, he became the most successful electric car manufacturer on Earth. You don't want to kill the messenger, man. The guy is a genius. And Craig, just because you're upset at Elon Musk that he's profiting from the global warming scam, well, so is every other podcaster that's for or against global warming. We're profiting on the global warming scam because it's so embarrassing. We can point out how embarrassing it is. So there's lots going on there, Craig. Don't be such a poo-pooer. All right, I feel so like it's such a jackass now. How's everybody doing out there? How are we doing? Let's talk about the X-Flare. We could, two more topics we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about the X-Flare and the incoming geomagnetic storm, which is going to hit in just about 12 to 16 hours of powers. And we'll bring you over to the WSAN little solar wind prediction. The new model came out about 8 hours ago, right after I put up our update on Oppenheimer Ranch project. Sure enough, 30 seconds later, the update came up, so I wasn't able to get it on the earlier podcast. But here you can see that X5 coming and the glancing blow that it's going to be bringing us. 11 UTC tomorrow, just about 12 hours from now. And I will blow this up for you so you can take a better look at it. And we'll just let it run through a few times while I screen the chat here. Yeah, we're on Telegram, but we're on too many platforms to make it useful. There's no way I can check 24 platforms, every single comment and all that. And I respond to and check every comment. So I can't expand much further. And if I do, I will lose touch with the people that follow me. So it's a stupid idea to get 100 people over here, 300 people over here, 400 people over here. Everyone's on YouTube or X. That's it. We've got 10,000 over on Rumble. Pick your poison. Rumble, YouTube, and X. Those are our top three. If you're not in those three places, all the rest is useless. I've spent thousands of hours on Steemit. I've spent thousands of hours on Getter and MeWe and Truth and all those platforms, and zero result. They're all a waste of time, but I continue to share there. People need to wake up on how difficult it is to be this savvy in spreading your information on multiple platforms. And that's just the way it is. It's the brass tacks. It is not an easy task. You want to know how many people are working on this podcast right now? One. Do you know how many people have been working on the last 6,500 podcasts that I have produced? One. Me. I am the producer, the star, the host, the writer, everything. I'm mass media, marketing, social media, me. No one else helps. Sometimes Leah comes on a show as a guest, but that's it. She might share 1 out of 100 videos on her Twitter. That's it. I am the producer, the writer, the host, the guest, and the researcher. I've done everything for the last 8 years for you people. So please show some respect. Become a Patreon. Give $1 a month. Support the work I do. When I say the work we do, we is mostly me. Trust me. That's not eliminating any props for my partner in crime, Leah Shaper. She works behind the scenes. She pays the bills. She takes care of the legal battles. But she has nothing to do with the show for the most part. She doesn't want to have anything to do with it. It's too much work. She doesn't need it. That makes sense, doesn't it, folks? All right, we're going to run the WSA Endless Spiral for a few minutes here as a couple more people enter the room. 403 in the house. We appreciate all of you. Give it a thumbs up. In a moment, we're going to go over the full geomagnetic forecast. And then we'll talk about a few other things. The fact that we're going to have Ben Joseph Stewart on the show at the end of the month. I've been a fan of his since 2007 when Esoteric Agenda came out. followed up by Kymatica, and now over a dozen documentaries, including Unsafe and Ineffective. If you want to watch the trailer or the full movie, we'll leave you links below to get access to the full film for free. So that's going to be pretty awesome coming up at the end of the month. Hope you all got the memo. So we'll just let the WSA Endless Spiral run through for a minute here and let a few other people roll into the room before we get on to the Iceland update on the Reykjanes Peninsula and the imminent eruption there. Do a dab. All righty, folks, we're back. And let us share some more screens here. Make sure I get a thumbs up if the audio is good, the video's been good. You're like a shooting star to meh. Thank you, Mojave. You're a shooting star to meh because you're commenting on my videos. 13 watching on X. That's a record, but it's our first live stream over there. So heck of a good live stream. Thank you for the 13 watching over on X. Thank you all for watching on Facebook. I haven't been able to monitor that either. We are supposedly streaming live over at Oppenheimer Ranch Project on Facebook. And that's a boom. Let's move it through. Thank you again, all of our supporters, including Mountain High Time. He's a big help. He has done more work for us than most people. So behind the scenes, Ransom Godwin made us a great bumper and some trailers and has done other work for us. But he does mostly of the production work for Adapt 2030. So give him a shout out. Support Ransom Godwin at Mountain High Time as a Patreon. Support his channel. He does a lot of work behind the scenes for some of the big players that you may or may not be aware about. I'm trying to grow my hair out. Maybe long. I'm thinking like down to my ankles. What do you guys think? Also trying to get more of these carbon fibers made. There was only 144 handmade. They've sold out. We need to get another run. They're all hand signed and numbered. So these hats are, a lot of people have been commenting and contacting me about them. Okay, so let's share some screens and get back to the science. It's so hard for me to deal with all these, everybody there. Let's go to the Reykjanes Peninsula here, and we're going to look. You can see here 6 hours or so. Where am I at? 6 hours or so seismicity dropped off here on the Reykjanes Peninsula. And this is indicative of when fissure eruptions typically happen. Now, what you would want to do is go over and check out the seismic tremor. And the reason you want to check the tremor is because the tremor spikes when an eruption happens. You can see there's a spike happening now. The last eruption happened right at the 4,500 threshold, right at here where it is now, but it shot up to over 7,000. So when we see that vertical spike to 7,000, 8,000 tremor, that is when the eruption has initiated. It hasn't happened here. I got a little excited on these little spikes, but we're now back up into the game field and still no seismic activity, which means an eruption potentially could be imminent. So there's no seismic activity. Now we got a couple blips here. Let's go over and take a look at the multi-view over on Iceland. So this is the multi-view. This is Langenhue. This is where the eruption was. And then the eruption, you can see from this distance. This is a look at Svartsengi. This is probably the Blue Lagoon here and the geothermal plant. As we can see, looking in the direction here of the fissure emplacement and the former fissure eruption from 2 weeks ago, there is no eruption currently, which is good news. But I think an eruption is imminent in the next day or so. based on the uplift and the way that all of the data is showing us. Now, what I've told people in the past is quite interesting. What we tend to find in Iceland when the Reykjanes Peninsula erupts like it did 1,300 years ago or so, is that other major volcanoes erupt at the same time. We're talking like Hekla, Asja, Bardabunga, or something like that. So a major volcano, not a fissure eruption, typically happens at the same time of a fissure eruption. And now we're in the third year of the Reykjanes Ridge fissure eruption. We should be looking for a secondary eruption in the VEI4 or greater from Bardabunga, Asja, or Hekla, or any other volcano that erupts in those fashions. And this is based on historical data exclusively, if that makes sense. All right, we're going to do a few questions here. But before we do, I'm going to take a quick look at a few other things. All right, let's go back to the X5 CME update before we get to questions, just so we can get some clarity for you folks. Here is the 3-day geomagnetic and aurora forecast for tomorrow. It's rapidly approaching. It's according to the powers that be, we will get the KP5 in about 12 hours of powers. And this is provided by the NOAA Space Weather Prediction Center and also Solar Ham. Big props to them. And it's based on the latest available data and modeling. It takes a little bit to update this, which is unfortunate. But G5 or KP5 G1 geomagnetic storm is expected. Now we just popped up here at KP4 Al Gore Zabor. But I'm going to pull up telemetry in just a second, and we'll get to see what is happening with the solar wind. So I'm just quickly Googling the Discover solar wind, and it doesn't like my connection. There it is. All right, here we are looking at telemetry. Discover solar wind. Couldn't be better. I actually like this one better, but it kind of ruins the picture now, doesn't it? Oh, that's not bad. All right, here we are looking at Discover Solar Wind, and I'll go over there and point out some things. We've had, you can see here, the BZ started rapidly shifting about 12 hours ago. And we also have a plasma speed increase in just the last 4 to 6 hours. This increase in the last 4 to 6 hours is what is driving KP up here to 4. It's now dropping back down to 2.5. So we had a low-level geomagnetic instability, which could be kicking off some aurora up in the Arctic region, but nothing significant, which is good news. We are waiting for a geomagnetic storm to happen in the next 12 hours of powers, but we are going to need to keep a close eye on telemetry. In order to get to KP5, the plasma speed here, which is currently hovering at around 420, went up to 450. We'll need to pop up above 500. And we would also need to see the density coming above this 10 line. So that could be happening in the next 12 hours. If you're wondering how to take a look at that, keep a close eye on the telemetry at Discover Solar Wind, which will be linked below to get those details. And now I'm going to scroll down into the comments. We have 452 in the house. We appreciate each and every one of you. Happy New Year, for goodness sakes. It's boom time on Magnetic Reversal News. And it is New Year's Day. Hey, hey. Deborah Young is in the house. Jack Watt, welcome to the show. Ho, ho. Doob Cruz is in the house. Mech Jenny X on YouTube. All you have to do is ask. John Davis has joined the stream here. Asheville, Aussie. Q9 is in the house. I'm sure I've put Q9 back up here. Craig F. David P. Sides the fourth. Sleepy G is sleeping on it. Sapphire. 7 Moon Jen. 415 in the house. Hit the like, folks. I agree. In fact, and Brangan, also agrees to hit the like button, folks. I can't see where the like is because I have to close that in order to actually have some bandwidth. But Tracy Morgan says, thank you, Diamond. Jack Watt's in the house. Does the volume and uplift correlate to the volume of magma? Yes, Jack. At this point, that's a great question. But at this point, what we know is that a dike was formed. This is like a slot that formed in sedimentary rock or volcanic rock that cracked. A vertical slot cracked, filled with massive amounts of magma. More magma than any of the last 3 eruptions in the last 3 years. And so we were expecting a very large continuous eruption. But what happened in a period of just 3 days? More lava was put out on the surface of Iceland in the last eruption than all the other eruptions occurred during months of eruptive activity. So this was a big, quick blip. But the problem is not all the magma came out. So there's 2 choices. Either the magma solidifies and blocks blocks its access to the surface and doesn't come up, or it's sitting there waiting to come up again. As more magma gets pumped in and more uplift occurs, what we're seeing is at a certain level of uplift, the surface can then rupture and the magma can then leak out. So what it appears as if this eruption will be different than the rest, where it will be in multiple phases. When in fact, the eruption itself has been in multiple phases. This may be all connected to the same eruption, ongoing now for years, just coming up in different places. And it will take time before we can really unravel what it means. It's just like grand solar minimums. We may be in one, but it's not till it's over that we'll be able to put the beginning date and the end date on the event. Holy macaroni. All right, let's come over to take a look once again at the Grindavik tremor. It looks like it's reducing a little. That's good news. We'll come over to the Reykjanes multi-view live from Iceland, where we would see live here any eruption that was emanating. We'll just keep it there for the time being. And we'll call out any questions. We've been on air now 32 minutes, 54 seconds, 457 people in the house, and now it is the Q&A session. So for the next 30 minutes or so, we'll answer questions from the field. But first, I have to get to the end of the comments in order to make that happen. Stars are mass generators, according to Craig F. I agree. All right, so please drop your questions below. Smart Ass Patriot says, Happy New Year, Diamond Lee and everyone. We appreciate you, Smart Ass Patriot. Darren L. McCauley is in the house. Thank you as well for being here. Cat Mac is here. I just had a stoke. I just has a stoke, lol man. Don't K no mo. Okay. Gunslinger says, did you say 420? Well, that's assumed, Gunslinger. Deb Sloan says, Al Gore with a lovey and a huggy. Lou Pa says, Schumann resonance down. Yeah. Okay. Looking for questions. Looking for questions. Still booming. Still scrolling for a freaking question. All right. Love you and thank you for all the work me this year. Bless all of your family. You too, Mo-P. Happy New Year, Mob Rule. Hi, Jason. Is that a boom? Yes, it is, Human Patient Association. Is that a thing? I can't find a question. I'm still scrolling. I enjoy your program. I've learned so much. Thank you. Continue, please. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, Danielle. Daniel. I'm sorry. Did I ruin that? A good question was asked. Is there a field trip planned for 2024? There's, in fact, 2 trips planned. I'm planning 2 trips. I'm planning a 4 corners petroglyph trip in the spring to be announced in the next 4 weeks, and then a larger event in the summer to be announced. I can't be more vague than that. But there it is. And people will be involved. I've reached out to Green, Greg's, Rex Bear, Mountain High Time, and many others, including David Dubine. I just was talking to him, and David Dubine is in Croatia, taking a look at some star forts and relaying information back. We're going to have him on the show in just a week or so, so stay tuned for that interview. Liz says, thanks to Diamond, my daughter in Texas has prior warning before the freeze 2 years ago. Thank you, Diamond. It was priceless. We may get some of that this year, Liz. So buckle up and stay tuned for more updates. Okay. Okay. Human Patient Association says any relationship to polar magnetism. Is what any relationship to polar magnetism? That is not a question. That's half of a question. You need the noun. So we need to know what you're talking about, Human Patient Association. But that was a good try. At least that was half a question. Still scrolling and looking for a question. I'm out at 8:41. So I'm 6 minutes back on the chat. Still no questions. Guy Gossett says, hey, brother, Happy New Year. Good work and keep up the good work. Thank you. We appreciate it. Hit the thumbs up and boss that algorithm. Yep. We couldn't agree more, Sleepy G. Someday I'll be able to spell. Well, we all have our issues, MJ. Still scrolling, 8:42. Looking for a question. No questions. Everyone just loves each other. It's just like a happy chat. Who shot JFK? Well, that would be the CIA, James. Apparently you missed the memo. Okay, questions. Mount High Time. Ransom comes through. From Twitter, Nick _ Red Cloud. What volcano worries you the most? Well, based on all the data and all the watching I've done, it would be, for the people of Earth, the most dangerous volcano that is brewing is Campi Flegrei, because it's surrounded. If it were to erupt, even at VEI 4, you would see 50,000 or more dead in an instant, and the catastrophe would be epic. It would be like a catastrophe never seen before in modern times. But it could go off at VEI 5. Fortunately, the uplift and the data showing in Campi Flegrei is that it would only erupt at VEI 4. But because the people are living in the caldera that will erupt, the entire town, it would be devastating. Now, after that, the next biggest threat is anything in Indonesia that could go VEI 7 or greater, because it would darken the skies for years. So that's not an immediate threat to humans living near the volcano, but it's a threat to the entire planet. And we're long overdue for VEI 6 or 7. It's coming, and it will come in the next decade or 2 or less, because it has to, based on the frequency of these eruptions. So when the VEI 6 or 7 hits and the skies darken, the way of life that we have is so fragile, and that there are billions of people that are even unaware of the science and the technology that we're using right now. They will have no idea what's happening. There will be a massive loss of life. Billions of people will die of starvation, and it will be a tragedy unlike any seen in the modern world. Now, the problem is this is going to happen. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And many of us that are as young as I am will witness it in our lifetimes. So it could be either of those. But what else do we know from historical data is that Cascadia, during low solar activity, erupts in a big way. And just 250 years ago, 7 volcanoes on the west coast of the US were erupting. It's not like that now. We've only had one. We had Mount St. Helens erupt in the 80s. But more eruptions are happening on the west coast, which is highly populated, and there will be more catastrophes there. And because of the way the internet works and satellites and the media and live streaming, we're going to see this happen live. It's going to be sick and scary. And we need to buckle up and be prepared, which is why for 10 years we've been telling people not to live near these things. And if you can, move away. Go to a safe space. We've provided that information. The reason we live here in the Four Corners region near Pagosa Springs is geophysically the safest area in North America. It's the furthest away from human population as well. So no one's going to come looking for us. There just won't be the fuel or the moxie. We're too far away from anyone. We'll starve or die before they get here. So choose wisely. Have a bug out plan. Have a place to go. If the sky darkens in a way that you're unfamiliar with, it was because there was a VEI-7 eruption, and it's going to stay that way for a very long time. Heed the warnings. Be prepared. Wow, I got chills. All right, let's look for some more questions. Ransom, thank you for harvesting that over from X. We appreciate you. What about a live stream next big aurora storm? Well, we could, but we're nowhere near the aurora belt, so it would be kind of stupid for us to live stream it. I guess we could capture some of the video footage of the auroras, and we may consider that in the future. Is there a relationship between polar magnetism and volcanic activity or earthquakes? It's a weird question, human-patient association, and I think you need to do a lot more research and homework on the topics that you're trying to ask a question about. There is a relationship between solar activity and volcanic activity and earthquakes. Now, solar activity does affect the polar magnetism, but it's a weird way to ask the question. There are peer-reviewed papers that show that low solar activity leads to increased cosmic rays, which can heat the muons in the subsurface, which basically heat violent volcanoes. These are siliceous-rich magmas, like Cascadia, the ones that go boom. VEI-5 or greater explosive volcanoes can be triggered by low solar activity. But earthquakes can also be triggered by high solar activity. We've seen large coronal mass ejections and their associated plasma streams trigger 8 magnitude earthquakes, including New Mexico 8.2 just a few years ago from a huge coronal mass ejection that expressed on Earth as a massive geomagnetic storm. And when the geomagnetic storm hit, the earthquake happened instantaneously. So there is a relationship between solar activity and volcanism and earthquakes. Deborah Young asks, what do you think will happen in 12 hours when this hits us from the sun? Nothing. It is a low-level G1 geomagnetic storm. Some people may see aurora, but that's about it. We need to get up into the KP 8 and 9 or higher with a very large X flare to create any damage to the grid, or it has to be an exceptional alignment of the perfect magnetic field when a mid-level geomagnetic storm could cause perturbations to the grid. But this is not going to be any of those. The Beagle guy says, talk a little bit more about the jet stream and La Nina. Well, La Nina is over. We're heading into ENSO neutral. And so by spring, La Nina is done. Now, the difference between El Nino and La Nina and ENSO neutral is simply the shift in the moisture pattern across the U.S. And you can easily Google it and find out those maps and see what the different pattern changes are. So that's all I would say for you, the Beagle guy. C. Quintana says, how far apart was the flare and the Japan quake? It's 10 or 11 hours. They're not related. Not related whatsoever. The Japan quake was caused by the coronal hole, in case you haven't been watching the show. Large coronal holes trigger large earthquakes. And coronal hole 86 had been facing us for 4 days. And when the earthquake went off, it was still geo-effective. So these large coronal holes are what trigger the earthquakes. If we could go back 2 days, you would see 86 sitting right in the center of the disk here. It's the coronal holes that change the magnetic field on Earth that then trigger the earthquakes. It is not the plasma stream from the coronal hole. That hasn't reached us yet. Well, in fact, it probably did here. Let's go back here to be absolutely clear. This here is the coronal hole stream. KP4. That was 6 hours ago. And so the earthquake happened well before that. So very little relationship. I hope that makes sense. No, Leah is nowhere near this studio. She is miles away. Liz says, do you think 2023 will see the same number of 7 magnitude quakes or more? I think it will be more, Liz. I think you mean 2024. I think 2024 will see very large 7 and 8 magnitude quakes. This is because the solar polar fields all have to reverse in the next 6 months. This is when large earthquakes occur during solar polar field reversals. This is the very tippy top of the solar max. When it shifts towards solar minimum, that's when we get large 8 magnitude quakes. We also have the potential for more large X flares. We just had the largest X flare of the solar cycle at X5, so we could see more of those Earth facing. And I also think we have a very large potential for a huge volcanic eruption, VEI 6 or greater. And that is going to last for at least the next 6 years. So we're in a very dangerous spot on Earth geophysically for VEI 6 and 7 eruptions. And in the next 6 months, huge earthquakes due to the solar polar field reversals. So buckle up, Liz. Imagine an 8 magnitude earthquake in the US as we head into the election. That election will not happen. Holiday was great, Tim. Thanks for asking. Randy Willis says, has that type of volcano erupted explosively before? What type of volcano, Randy? I have no idea what you're talking about. Please learn how to ask a question with the topic or the noun in the question so I know what you're asking. Snow depth prediction for the United States. Well, the United States is gigantic, and there's no such thing as a snow depth prediction for the United States. So Heidi Migzitz, you have to understand how big the United States is. What we've seen in general is that the North American snow mass has been above the 30-year multi-decadal average for the last 3 years. And I would expect no different. MJ Pierce says, are stars made of condensed hydrogen into a liquid metal? Yeah, liquid metallic hydrogen. That would be the prevailing hypothesis, MJ, based on all of the observational data. Diamond, will you, professor? Have no idea what. Question, why no volcanoes in the mid-Atlantic Rift? The mid-Atlantic Rift is thousands of miles of continuous volcano. That's what Iceland is. It's the mid-Atlantic Rift. So all of the eruptions on Iceland are the mid-Atlantic Rift. McJenny X on YouTube. Magnetic reconnection is kind of nonsensical scientific explanation for something that may be happening, but probably isn't. I hope that helps, Sleepy G. Could the X flare of the sun have triggered? No. Nope. It was the coronal hole. Shall I bring that back up? Coronal holes trigger large earthquakes on Earth. Okay. In 12 hours, how will the sun's action affect us? Well, for me, it will rise and it will get much warmer, Deborah. What magnitude CME would take us back to the Stone Age? There is no coronal mass ejection magnitude. You would say a solar flare. What magnitude? Solar flare. Solar flare. So that's going to be a rating in X 20 or greater, directly Earth facing. X 20 or greater, directly Earth facing. Asheville, Aussie. Okay, what happened here? Is this a big quake? No. No, in 2011, there was a giant quake in Japan with a tsunami that was 70 feet high that killed. Anyway, I guess you just got here, Stizzy Lou. Mo P says, Diamond, were you a professor? You're like a genius. How many years did you teach? I taught maybe 5 years at Temple University, and I was an associate professor. I don't have a PhD. I was a student, graduate student. Joe Bartnick says, how about a bunker buster at a convenient place for magma to come up? There is no evidence that that's even possible, Joe. It's a pipe dream. Low-brow conspiracy theorists on the internet that have no background in science whatsoever consider it. Some people have even considered why we haven't dumped concrete in the top of erupting volcanoes to stop them from erupting. But I do digress. Given the recent large coronal holes, according to Calvin Cheney, and this glancing X flare, do you think there are more 7+ quakes coming in the near future? Calvin, yes. In the next 6 months, we're going to see 7 and 8 magnitude quakes because of the solar polar fields reversing. Not necessarily coronal holes. The solar polar field reversals result in the largest earthquakes on Earth. Did you just pick it up? I put it down, Calvin. It can't get any clearer. Twice I've said it now in the last 30 minutes. In the next 6 months, we're going to have large 8 magnitude earthquakes because of the solar polar field reversals as we go to solar minimum. I'm not going to say it again. Leah is sleeping. Okay, couple more. Ganam Neod. Is this upturn in quake activity caused by the coronal holes or the CME? What is the average time period from CME to Earth impact? Depends on the flare, but we already know that this earthquake was probably caused by the coronal hole 86. The average time period from a CME to Earth depends on the size of the CME. So if it's an X5 like this, it's traveling fast. They calculated that this X flare was traveling over 200 kilometers per second, which means it gets here in 24 hours. An X20 could get here in 8 hours. A C flare and an M flare could take 2 days or more. So there you go. Of course, we'll do more with Mario. He is in the middle of some amazing research where he's working on expanding Earth. Is Rex in the house? Okay. I need more questions. We are way behind the questions here. Will we be getting stronger CMEs, but less frequently? No, we're still at solar max. So as many CMEs as we're getting as we'll be getting. And then it will get lesser. What could we expect in the next 12 hours? Nothing significant, Valerie. This is a low-level geomagnetic storm. If it impacts, it's going to impact during the day tomorrow, and we're not even going to see aurora in North America. The polar vortex is so erratic because weather is erratic, and Earth's weather patterns are erratic. Nothing is regular. Nothing is the same. Nothing is linear. There is no such thing as global warming where the temperature is going to continue to rise. It doesn't happen. Temperature goes up and down, just like CO2 and everything else. Dave, the planet is a supersized battery. Yes, everything has a charge in the universe. All planetary bodies have charges. So they're basically low-level batteries. Frying Pan says, would you like me to show you around my PhD dissertation area in the Spanish Peaks to see what some real dikes and stocks look like? I've been there. I've done that. I am the Crestone man. But if I'm ever out there, Frying Pan, you're welcome to join us and take me on an excursion. I'd love that. Eve Welcome says, generally speaking, what kind of health-related events should we expect for KP5? Nothing. Nothing at all. The only health effects from geomagnetic storms occur at KP6 or higher. They're only really dangerous at KP7. They only are extremely accentuated at KP8. And I'm talking myocardial infarctions and stroke and insanity. So at KP5, very few people are perturbed. It's pretty normal activity. Nothing scary, Eve. My timeline predictions for the next few years on major potential events, SS, I just talked about them. There will be large earthquakes in the next 6 months due to the solar polar field reversals, and we are in a very high danger zone for VEI 6 or 7 eruptions. Once a VEI 7 eruption occurs, the earth goes dark, the crops fail, and everyone starves to death. So that's what happens. So that's based on historical data, will happen between now and the next solar minimum or the next 2 years on the uptick. So that's about 7-year time frame. Not a very good 7 years to look forward to, especially with what the globalists are doing. And in 5 years, we're going to reach the singularity where AI will know more than we are. And by that point, there will be complete global control of all of your movements, unless you have become part of the resistance, which means you're going to need to be out of cities and in a rural area with a group of people that are protecting you and you're protecting each other. Decky 69 with the super chat. Boom. Do you think the Japan earthquake was a result of the coronal hole? Yes, of course. We've corroborated that. Eric Court with the super chat. Diamond, keep putting out the boom. Yes, we will. I'm rolling through here. Only super chats will be read at this point. Modern life is compartmentalized like the Manhattan Project. We are screwed. Yes, we are screwed indeed. Are car batteries susceptible from current disruptions from the sun? No, but all the electronics before there and in the engine compartment are. Happy New Year, Diamond. Thanks for the knowledge. Can you explain the tensor ball after No, I can't. I have no idea what you're saying there. Wildeberry mushrooms, $5. Just got back from Mount St. Helens today. Would you be willing to do a deep dive on the Cascadia? Yeah, we've done several. I have several exclusive videos over the last 8 years on the Cascadia. The fact that 7 volcanoes were erupting between 1750 and 1820, and the fact that we are way overdue for more Cascadia activity, and the fact that all this may be related to a 9 magnitude earthquake up there in Cascadia as well. Wow. A lot of things to consider in the next few years of our lives. I'm scrolling through here, blasting through. I appreciate all of you guys commenting. My gosh, thousands of comments. Cat Max says, Leah is who I understand. Yeah. Well, she is not a feminist, so if you are, I'm sorry about that. Oh, good question. What do I think the global population will be in 2100? Well, that is a very long time away. Almost 3 generations. And I would suggest that it would be somewhere between 1 and 2 billion. In C. Stefan Burns' latest, he noted immediate changes recorded to the ionosphere from the X5 flare that could, in part, have triggered Japan quakes. No, it couldn't, because they were 11 hours apart. If it was an instantaneous ionospheric effect, then the quake would have happened then. It wouldn't have waited 11 hours. That's a stupid construct. Stefan Burns is not that smart. And I think that maybe you shouldn't be watching him. I've watched his shit. It's just like an extended 60-minute period of saying nothing. If you're a feminist, then you believe in the woke cult. And if you believe in the woke cult, you're brainwashed and you're an idiot and you're a racist and you're a scumbag. You're a hateful person. You don't like humanity. You like communism and you like Nazis. The woke cult has no place on any of my channels or in any of my chats. And if you haven't picked that up, I just put it down. I did elaborate on why I said there won't be a 2024 election. If there is a world war that is started by the current leader of our country, he can ban the election. If there's a civil war, the current president can ban an election. If a foreign entity destroys the power grid with an EMP, there can be no election. Be safe. We love you.